Tonight's tale drifts back to an early morning in Florence in the year 1480. A fabric merchant is getting his little shop ready for the day. As he tends his fabrics, linen, silk, and wool, Florence begins to wake. Settle in, let the rising sun warm your thoughts, and step gently into the story. He wakes before the bells in that moment when night has softened but morning has not yet claimed the world. His eyes open slowly, adjusting to the faint gray that rests like mist across the ceiling beams. The air is cool, touched with the last of the night's quiet, and he takes a long breath before stirring beneath the woolen blanket. For a few heartbeats, he simply lies still, listening. There is no sound inside his small chamber, only the soft rhythm of his own breathing, only the memory of yesterday fading gently into the edges of dawn. His feet find the floor first, cool stone, smooth from years of use. The touch grounds him, wakes him fully. He reaches for his clothing where he folded it carefully the night before. His shirt is linen, softened by endless washings. When he lifts it, the fabric falls with a soft, papery whisper, light, familiar, unhurried. His tunic comes next, a gentle weight of wool warming in his hands. He draws it over his head and smooths it into place, feeling the fibers settle against his skin. The wooden chest beside the bed creaks softly as he shifts to retrieve his stockings. Even the wood seems to wake slowly at this hour. He moves with practiced ease, not rushed, not distracted, simply present in the sequence of small motions that begin every morning of his life. His cloak waits by the door. He lifts it from its hook, draping it around his shoulders. The bronze clasp rests cool against his thumb before he secures it, the metal clicking softly into place. Before stepping outside, he opens a single shutter. Gray morning seeps in through the narrow gap. The street below is still, washed in muted tones, stone, shadow, a flicker of soft blue along the horizon. He takes a moment to breathe in the coolness. Florence, in this early light, feels almost like a painting still waiting for its first brushstroke. When he steps outside, the air folds around him gently, not cold, simply fresh, touched with the calm that lingers before the city wakes. His footsteps sound quietly on the cobblestones. The stones beneath him are uneven, each one holding a different memory of decades of footsteps. He knows them all, the ones that dip slightly, the ones that tilt, the ones that are smoothed into gentle hollows. His soles read them like an old language. Above him, the sky shifts by the smallest degree, from gray to a faint pearl tone, softening as if dawn is considering whether to arrive. A single bell rings from a distant tower, not loud, not insistent, just a low, steady tone spreading through the narrow streets like a ripple across still water. He tilts his head slightly to catch the sound. That bell marks the beginning of his day. It always has. He walks slowly, not out of reluctance, but because the morning invites no haste. Florence at this hour is a city dreaming with its eyes open, doorways in shadow, windows shuttered, rooftops waiting for sunlight. A faint scent of baking bread drifts from somewhere ahead, carried lightly on the cooling air. As he turns a corner, the scent grows stronger, warm and yeasty, mingled with the faintest hint of toasted grain. The baker has been working for hours already, stoking the heavy stone ovens long before the first bell rang. He does not see the baker, but he imagines him moving through the warm room, flour dust floating like pale smoke, dough rising in neat rows beneath cloths, the ovens breathing steady heat. The image is comforting, familiar, a quiet assurance that the world is as it should be. A cat slips across the street, tail flicking once behind it. Its paws make no sound as it disappears between two buildings, leaving only the faintest echo of movement in the still air. The second bell joins the first, higher in pitch, ringing from another tower. Their tones blend and drift across the rooftops, filling the early light with layered sound. He walks with them, each step fitting naturally into the rhythm of the bells. He passes a fountain tucked into a small courtyard. The water trickles constantly, never hurried, never sharp. The sound weaves through the quiet, a soft, liquid thread tying night to morning. When he reaches his shop, he pauses just outside the door. The building is simple, plastered walls in warm earth tones, wooden shutters still closed, the faint outline of the sign above the door barely visible in the half-light. The sign bears a painted bolt of cloth, faded in places, yes, but still clear enough for anyone to know what trade is practiced here. He places a hand on the door. The wood is cool and worn smooth in places where years of fingertips have passed. He draws the iron key from his cloak pocket. Its weight settles in his palm, heavy, familiar, unchanged. The key slides into the lock with a soft, metallic whisper. He turns it. The mechanism yields slowly. A small, precise click echoes inside the doorframe, a sound that feels like the first step inside a ritual. He pulls the door and it opens slowly. The hinges give a long, low creak, as much a part of his mornings as the bells. The shop beyond is dark and still, the shelves filled with quiet, slumbering shapes of fabric bolts. He steps inside, closing the door gently behind him. The air is cool, scented faintly with wool, linen, and the dust of stone walls. It feels like stepping into a pocket of stillness, deep, steady, waiting. He moves slowly through the darkness, his hand trailing along the edge of the counter until he finds the shutter bar. One by one, he lifts each wooden slat. The shutters open inward, groaning softly, letting in the first real light of the new day. Pale morning spills across the floor in delicate strips, widening with each shutter he opens. Dust motes awaken in the light, drifting upward in slow, wandering motions. Tiny specks catching brightness before settling again. He stands there for a moment, letting the day fill the room. The silence is deep, almost warm. Nothing stirs, nothing interrupts. The world is soft and patient. He draws a long breath, feeling the cool air move through him. This is the beginning he prefers, quiet, deliberate, untouched by haste. The shop will wake slowly. He will wake slowly with it. And as the sun works its way gently across the rooftops outside, he feels the familiar calm of morning unfurl within him, steady, grounding, and entirely his. The light that enters the shop is still thin and cool, not yet carrying the warmth that will come later. It lays itself gently across the floorboards, pushing back the shadows inch by inch. The space fills slowly with soft shapes, shelves, folded cloth, the curve of the counter, all emerging in their own time, as though waking from sleep. He moves toward the back wall, where the bolts of fabric rest in tidy rows. The shelves were built many years ago by his father. He can still see the grain of the wood, the small marks left by hand tools, the slight unevenness in one of the supports. These imperfections comfort him. They anchor the shop in memory. He reaches first for a bolt of silk. Even before he lifts it, he can sense its delicacy, the way the fabric shifts ever so slightly under its own weight, like water caught in cloth. When he slides the bolt forward, the silk rustles softly, as though whispering to itself. He carries it to the central table and unrolls it with slow precision. The silk spreads across the wood in a shimmering cascade. It catches the early light like liquid gold, each ripple glowing faintly, each shadow deepening into soft amber. He rests both hands gently on the surface. The silk is cool, smooth, so fine that his fingertips at first barely feel it. He moves his palm in long, careful strokes from one end to the other. A calming rhythm, a motion repeated so often it lives in his muscles more than his mind. As the fabric warms beneath his touch, its texture shifts. Still smooth, still delicate, but no longer distant. It begins to feel alive in a quiet, steady way. He lifts the edge and lets it fall back. The silk collapses in a soft, sigh-like flow, a sound he has always found soothing. Barely audible, but enough to settle something in him. He folds the silk back along its length, letting each layer fall precisely atop the next. Fold, smooth, align, fold, smooth, align. He could do this with his eyes closed. Some mornings he nearly does. Once the silk is returned to its bolt, he sets it aside and reaches for wool. This bolt is heavier, denser. The moment his hands close around it, he feels the weight, solid, reassuring, a quiet presence in the early light. The wool is dyed a warm walnut brown. When he unrolls it, the fabric settles onto the table with a muted, comforting thud. The texture meets his fingertips with a gentle resistance. Not coarse, but firm, with a soft give in the weave. He presses his hand into it slightly. The wool yields, then springs back in slow, quiet resilience. He smooths it in patient strokes. Not to change the fabric, it lies perfectly, but to acquaint himself again with its texture, its warmth, its quiet strength. He lifts a corner and lets it fall. The wool drops with a soft puff of air, landing like a calm breath. He folds it carefully. This fabric demands a slower motion than the silk, a more deliberate touch. Fold, press, release. He feels the steadiness of it as he works, the weight grounding him gently. Next comes linen. He draws the bolt from the shelf and already knows, by sound alone, that this one will offer a different experience. Linen speaks differently when moved, a dry, delicate crackle, like parchment brushed by fingertips. He unrolls it slowly, listening. The fabric falls across the table in a pale sweep, catching the faint light in soft, matte tones. He runs his fingers over the surface. It is cool, faintly textured, with that unique linen balance, neither smooth nor rough, always somewhere between extremes. He brushes the back of his hand across it. Cool again, a different kind of cool than stone, more alive, more responsive. He lifts and refolds the linen, watching how the fabric creases and smooths again easily under his palm. It holds memory lightly, just enough to give shape, never enough to harden. He sets it aside and reaches for velvet. Velvet is always last. It demands attention. It rewards patience. This bolt is deep blue, so dark it looks almost black until the light catches it. When he unrolls it, the texture rises in tiny, soft ridges. His hand sinks into it without resistance, the pile shifting beneath his fingers. He moves his palms slowly across the velvet surface. The direction changes everything. One way, the color deepens into near shadow. The other, it brightens into a rich, luminous blue. The morning light plays along the folds, gliding over the fabric in shimmering waves. He finds himself slowing further as though the velvet encourages him to linger. There is no hurry. There never is at this hour. He refolds the velvet, smoothing it with reverent care, feeling its subtle weight as he places it back on the shelf. When the fabrics are all tended to, stacked and ordered by color and weight and texture, he moves to the small desk in the corner. The leather ledger waits there. The book's cover is worn soft, darker at the edges where many years of hands have touched it. He lifts it gently, mindful of the binding, and opens it to the next blank page. The paper is thick, quiet, beautiful in its simplicity. He retrieves the quill. The feather is mottled gray and white, soft at the edges. The quill's nib gleams faintly where it has been trimmed and sharpened. He dips it into the ink pot with slow precision. A single drop of ink gathers, falls back into the pot, sending out a tiny ripple of black. He touches the nib to the page. The first scratch is always the same, a small, steady whisper of sound that fills the room in a way nothing else does. It is delicate, yet confident, like the shop's own morning heartbeat. He writes the date, each number formed with practiced ease. Below that, he begins to list the fabrics: silk, ochre, 1 bolt, wool, sage, 2 bolts, linen, pale, 3 bolts. The words march down the page in neat rows, each letter deliberate, unhurried. His writing is slow, careful, mindful of the ink's flow. Between lines, he pauses, not to think. The work is too familiar to require thought, but to allow the moment to settle. Ink dries softly on the page. Dust motes drift by, catching in the light. He closes his eyes for a breath, letting the quiet deepen. When he opens them, he reaches for a small leather pouch in the drawer below the desk. He loosens the tie and pours its contents onto the ledger's open page. A soft cascade of coins, silver and copper, spills out in a gentle clatter, each piece rolling a short distance before settling. He arranges them into small piles, 1 coin at a time. The sound light, rhythmic, soothing. He counts them twice. Not because he doubts the number, but because the rhythm of counting is steadying. The repetition brings a calm focus. His fingertips move lightly over the cool metal, aligning the coins into tidy stacks. He makes a final note in the ledger. The quill glides quietly. The ink settles in thin, graceful strokes. When he sets the quill down, he rests his hand lightly on the page for a moment, feeling the faint texture of the paper with its drying ink beneath his fingertips. The morning has advanced almost imperceptibly. The light is warmer now, the shadows softer. He closes the ledger gently. The pages settle with a muted sigh. The shop waits around him, calm, expectant, ready for whatever small tasks the morning will bring. But there is no rush. There never is, not in these early hours, not within these familiar walls. He breathes in deeply. Wool, ink, wood, dust, sunlight, all woven together into the quiet fragrance of his trade. He feels himself settle, grounded, steady. The day is beginning, softly, slowly, exactly as it should. The morning light has begun to gather strength, shifting from pale silver to a warm, muted gold that brushes the edges of the shelves. It settles gently across the stored bolts of cloth, touching wool and linen with a soft glow, coaxing the rich colors of silk and velvet into quiet radiance. He moves toward the front of the shop, drawn naturally to the wide wooden table near the window. The table has stood there longer than he has, its surface smoothed by decades of hands arranging and folding fabrics, its corners rounded by time. The grain of the wood is visible through the gentle sheen left by years of oiling and polishing. He rests his fingertips against it, feeling the faint warmth from the slowly strengthening light. The window above the table looks out onto the narrow street. Even now, the glass is still cool to the touch. A few streaks remain faintly from where he cleaned it earlier in the week. They catch the light in soft, pale arcs. Outside, the city is beginning to stir, subtly, quietly, like someone stretching beneath warm blankets before fully waking. He returns to the shelves to choose the fabrics for today's display. He begins with the dusty blue wool. Its color is gentle, reminiscent of morning sky before the sun has taken full hold. When he lifts it from the shelf, the wool shifts with a soft, muffled sigh. He carries it to the table and sets it down carefully. He unrolls it in slow, steady motions. The wool settles in soft folds, each one widening slightly before coming to rest. He smooths it with both palms, pressing the fabric into a curve that looks effortless, though it is shaped by long habit. He adjusts the angle of the fabric so that the light falls across it just so, neither too bright nor too shadowed, but in a quiet, even wash. Next, he chooses a bolt of pale ochre linen. The fabric is lighter, more crisp. When he unrolls it beside the wool, it falls with a dry whisper, its surface catching the light in flat, soft reflections. The ochre and the blue complement one another in a way that pleases him. Warm earth and cool sky sharing the same moment of dawn. He lets the linen drape in a loose sweep, allowing a few gentle curves to form naturally. Then he adjusts one fold, then another, shaping them into a balanced, calming arrangement. From a lower shelf, he draws out sage green wool. This fabric is slightly heavier, its color muted like hillside herbs brushed by the first sunlight. When he unrolls it, the wool lands with a soft, generous weight. The green rests comfortably between the ochre and the blue, creating a quiet harmony of tones. He steps back a little to observe the three fabrics together: blue, ochre, green, sky, earth, herb, a morning palette. He tilts his head, studies the way the folds fall, then moves forward to adjust one wrinkle near the edge of the green wool. A small pull, a slight twist, a smoothing motion, and the fabric settles into place as calm and natural as breath. From a small wooden shelf he retrieves 3 ceramic bowls. Each bowl is simple, hand-shaped, faintly uneven at the lip, glazed in soft ivory. They hold spools of thread in tidy groups. In the first bowl, ochre thread wound neatly into small wooden spools. In the second, sky blue thread in slightly deeper tones than the wool. In the third, pale green threads with faint variations between each spool. He places the bowls gently among the folded fabrics. The spools shift slightly as he sets the bowls down. A tiny tap, a soft wooden rattle, and then silence. He touches one spool with the tip of his finger turning it until the thread catches the light just right. A subtle detail, but one that brings him quiet satisfaction. He steps back again. The display is growing quietly into itself, calm, balanced, the colors blending into a soft, harmonious arrangement that feels both thoughtful and unforced. He fetches a cloth from beneath the counter, a piece of worn linen that has been soaked in oil, lavender and olive blended together. When he lifts it, the scent rises immediately. Lavender, clean, floral, soothing. Olive oil, warm, rich, faintly fruity. Together they form a quiet perfume that settles into the room in slow waves. He unfolds the cloth and smooths it across the counter. The wood beneath responds to the oil, deepening in color as he polishes. His motions are circular, deliberate, unhurried. Small circles, larger circles. Slow sweeps along the grain. The cloth whispers across the surface, leaving behind a faint sheen. The scent of lavender spreads gently through the air, mingling with the dust and the morning sunlight to create an atmosphere that is warm, peaceful, and unmistakably his. He pauses, breathing in slowly as the scent settles. The shop feels somehow softer when the lavender is fresh. In the corner near the window stands a wooden mannequin, plain and simple. It has no face, no features, just the basic form of shoulders and torso. Smooth wood worn to a soft patina by years of use. He lifts a linen gown from a nearby peg, a simple piece, undyed, soft from repeated washing. The fabric rustles softly as he drapes it over the mannequin. He adjusts the shoulders first, then the hem, then a small gather of cloth near the waist. Each adjustment is small, subtle, almost meditative. The gown settles into place. The mannequin stands quietly in the morning light, its soft form adding a sense of gentle presence to the shop. Outside, the city continues to wake. The birdsong grows clearer, a small chorus from the rooftops, each bird offering its own simple melody, blending into a soft morning hum. A neighbor sweeps her doorstep, the sound steady and rhythmic, echoing faintly through the open door. Somewhere beyond the street, a cart rolls slowly over cobblestones, creaking wood, turning wheels, the muffled thud of hooves on stone. The sound rises, then falls, then drifts away again. From the spice seller's shop across the way, the faint scents of cinnamon and saffron drift through the air, carried by a gentle breeze that wanders down the narrow street. The city's awakening is a slow unfurling, sounds and scents and movements emerging one by one, never rushing, never startling. He lets these soft impressions wash over him. The day is opening, the world is stirring. The morning is alive but still gentle. His gaze returns to the display he has crafted. The fabrics rest in quiet harmony. The threads gleam subtly in their bowls. The lavender scent mingles with wool and dust and sunlight. The mannequin stands with patient grace. Everything sits exactly as it should, calm, balanced, at ease. He runs a thumb along the edge of the blue wool. It is warm now from the sunlight, soft and pliant under his touch. He straightens one final fold, smoothing it with a slow, steady sweep of his palm. The day will bring its tasks, as it always does. Customers will come, the door will swing open and closed, voices will mingle, coins will clink. Work will continue, but for now, in this quiet moment between preparation and the first footsteps on the threshold, the shop rests in perfect stillness. He can feel that stillness in his own breath, steady, even, softening into the rhythm of the morning. He lets his hand fall gently back to his side. The display is complete. The shop is calm. The day is ready to begin. He crosses the room toward the small shelf at the back wall where a ceramic pitcher rests. The clay is pale and smooth beneath his fingers as he lifts it. Inside is the simple wine diluted with water that he prepared the evening before, a custom passed down from his father, not for indulgence but for grounding, a quiet pause before the day begins. He carries the pitcher to the counter and takes a small cup from a wooden peg. The cup is unadorned, its rim faintly uneven, the glaze cracked in a delicate network of fine lines that catch the light. He pours slowly. The liquid trickles in a thin, steady stream, the sound soft and clear in the stillness of the shop. He takes a sip. The drink is faint, more water than wine, cool on the tongue, touched with the earthy sweetness of the clay vessel. He lets it settle, breathing deeply as the warmth spreads gently through his chest. It is a small ritual, but it steadies him, marking the shift between preparation and the moment of opening. He sets the cup down with a quiet tap and rests both hands on the counter, feeling the smoothness of the freshly polished wood beneath his palms. The lavender scent rises faintly with the warmth of his skin, blending with the morning air in a soft, comforting way. He takes his time collecting a few items from the shelf below. Spare scraps of fabric, a neat stack of twine, a small pair of shears, arranging them behind the counter with quiet certainty. He knows he may not need all of them before noon, but having them close at hand is part of the ritual. These motions bring a sense of readiness. A gentle breeze moves through the shop. It slips in through the open shutters, carrying with it the distant scents of bread and morning herbs, touched faintly with the earthy coolness that lingers in the city's stone walls. He turns toward the door. The latch is simple, wrought iron, darkened by years of touch. He lifts it slowly, feeling the slight resistance before it gives way. The sound is soft, a small metallic click that echoes lightly off the walls. It is a sound he associates with beginnings, as surely as the bells or the rising sun. He grips the edge of the door and pushes it open. The hinges respond with a long, low creak, familiar, unhurried, almost soothing in its steadiness. The door swings outward, letting the full warmth of the morning spill into the shop. Sunlight drifts across the floor in long golden swaths, brightening the fabrics, warming the wood, and stirring the dust motes into gentle drifting dances. He leaves the door wide, allowing the morning to settle into the space. He steps just outside and stands beneath the sign above the door. The air is warmer now, touched by sunlight and the faint mineral scent of the stone street. He pauses a moment to watch the way the light glances off the plaster on the opposite building, softening its edges, warming its tones, bringing out the faint textures left by centuries of hands and weather. A pair of pigeons flutter down from a nearby rooftop, landing near a shallow puddle of water. They dip their heads, drinking in delicate, rhythmic motions. The sound of their feathers rustling is so faint he almost misses it. Further down the street, a woman carries a basket of herbs to her stall. The sprigs of rosemary and basil spill lightly over the rim. As she passes, a faint, fresh scent drifts toward him. Green, clean, grounding. A child walks behind her, stretching sleepily as he follows, the soles of his sandals brushing softly against the stones. The city is fully waking now, though still gently. He returns to the doorway and stands just inside the threshold, letting the mingled sounds of morning drift toward him. A cart turns into the street, its wheels rolling over the stones in a slow, rhythmic pattern, steady, unhurried. The man leading the cart nods as he passes the shop, a simple gesture, but one exchanged thousands of mornings before. He returns the nod with equal quietness. Inside, the fabrics shift slightly as the breeze stirs them. The colors glow softly, each responding to the changing light. He moves toward the display he arranged earlier. He straightens a fold of the blue wool, smoothing it gently with the palm of his hand. The wool is warm now from the sunlight, its texture softer, more welcoming. He presses the fabric lightly, feeling the give beneath his touch. He shifts the pale ochre linen just so, allowing a slanted beam of light to brush the edge of the fold. The linen responds beautifully, shadows deepening, surfaces glowing, the interplay of light and texture adding a quiet depth to the display. He adjusts the little ceramic bowls one by one, a slight turn of the ochre thread bowl, a minor angle, yet the whole composition feels more balanced. The blue thread catches the light in a tiny, bright line. The green thread sits in a nest of shadow, providing gentle contrast. He steps back again. The arrangement is calm, unforced, an invitation rather than a display. He retrieves another small box, this one filled with simple clasps and wooden buttons. They are not needed immediately, but he sets the box near the counter all the same. Preparedness to him is a kind of quiet kindness for himself, for his customers, for the space he keeps. He takes a slow breath as he stands there, letting his eyes move across the shop. The sunlight deepens as it moves inward, warming the stone floor. The dust motes drift like tiny lanterns. The scent of lavender settles again, faint but steady. The fabrics glow softly in their morning hues. He listens, outside, the quiet murmur of early conversation, the shuffle of footsteps, the faint tap of a door closing, the low roll of a wheel turning. Inside, the stillness of wool, the cool hush of linen, the soft, textured silence of velvet folded in shadow. He feels the moment stretch, gentle and unhurried. The sunlight pours in across the floor in a long, golden path. It reaches toward the counter, toward the table of folded fabrics, toward the shelves at the back of the shop. The warmth stretches slowly, inch by inch, as the sun climbs higher over the terracotta rooftops. He stands in the center of the room. The air is gentle here, neither cool nor warm, but balanced, held softly between morning shadow and morning light. A faint breeze drifts through the open doorway, stirring the edges of the fabrics. The wool shifts almost imperceptibly. The linen rises and falls in a nearly invisible ripple. Even the velvet responds, darkening slightly as its fibers shift in one smooth, unified motion. He watches the movement with quiet attention. Every small change feels like part of a larger rhythm, the slow awakening of the shop, the slow awakening of the day, the slow awakening of himself. There is nothing he must do at this moment, no customer to greet, no task that insists on beginning, no voice calling for attention. Just breath and light and the steady quiet of the room. Dust motes drift lazily through the slanted sunlight. The fabrics glow in their morning hues. The wooden shelves stand in muted shadow, The lavender and olive oil mingle into a warm, calming scent. He turns to look toward the doorway. The street beyond is still gentle, not yet busy, but no longer empty. A pair of voices murmur softly somewhere nearby, though the words are indistinct. Footsteps pass at a leisurely pace, not hurried. A soft breeze stirs again, carrying with it hints of rosemary, fresh bread, and the mineral coolness of stone that has not yet fully warmed. He watches these little signs of life without engaging, simply noting them as part of the slow tapestry of morning. He places his palm lightly on the back of a wooden chair near the counter. The chair wobbles faintly. It has always wobbled, a slight unevenness in one leg that he has never corrected. The small imperfection comforts him. It belongs to the room, to the history of the shop, to the rhythm of the years. He lowers himself onto the chair with slow, mindful movement. The wood creaks beneath his weight, not a protest, just a familiar acknowledgement. He sits with both feet flat on the stone floor, the coolness rising gently through the soles of his shoes. The fabrics rest in stillness before him. The table near the window glows with the combined light of blue wool and ochre linen. The bowls of thread sit like tiny punctuation marks in the display, catching the sun in quiet flashes. He rests his hands lightly on his thighs. Breath flows in and out. Slow, steady, even. He lets his gaze soften until the shapes in front of him blur slightly, blending into one another. The colors join into muted harmony, blues merging with greens, ochres melting into golds, shadows pooling like ink at the edges. He closes his eyes. The sounds of the street fade into a distant, gentle hum. The breeze moves across his face like a cool hand. The lavender lingers faintly in the air, warm and herbal. He allows each sensation to arrive in its own time. Nothing asks anything of him. Nothing demands thought or effort. He is simply here, breathing, resting, settling into the quiet shape of the morning. Everything is calm. Everything is quiet. Everything is enough. When he opens his eyes, he does not move immediately. He lets the moment linger, the soft breath of the day settling around him, the stillness deepening like a slow tide. The shop waits in peaceful readiness. The street hums with distant, gentle life. He stands between the two, anchored, quiet, unhurried. The morning is his. The stillness is his. This moment is his, and he rests in it, calm, steady, and entirely at peace.